Hello everyone and welcome back. In this lecture we'll look at some more examples of stacking and unstacking. For that, let's create a new data frame. I already created this. To save some time, I created this multi-level index data frame. It's a multi-level both indexes and columns. So don't worry about how this is created. I just wanted to show you an example. So let's run the cell and then see what the data frame looks like. We have outer and inner level indexes and outer and inner level column names. So that's a multi-index. Now what we'll do is use the stack method. We'll apply the stack method on this data frame. So that the innermost column name will be the innermost row or index label in the stacked data frame. What I mean by that is if I apply the stack method on the data frame, this innermost column labels will be the innermost index labels in the stacked data frame. So let's run that. So now we see that y0003 and y05 are the innermost index labels. So that's the stack method, and the unstack method will do the reverse. Let's save this in a variable called data frame stack. So if we check our data frame stack, we have that. Now let's apply the unstack method on this stacked data frame. So the unstack method does the reverse. The innermost row label will be the innermost column label when it's unstacked. So we have our data frame, that data frame stack object, and we'll apply the unstack method. And by default, if we don't pass any argument in the unstack method, it unstacks using the innermost index. So now we see y0, y0003 and y05 are the innermost column labels. So that's by default, and as we have seen in the previous lecture, we can pass either 0 or 1 in the unstack method, so that we can unstack it either by the inner or the outermost index labels. So 0 will unstack by the outer index, and then 1 will unstack by the inner index. Great, so far we have seen how to stack and unstack using one level, and in the next lecture we'll see how we can unstack by passing more than one level in our stack method. So we'll pass a list of levels, more than one, and then we'll use those to do stacking and unstacking. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture. Hello everyone, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll look at stacking. Hello everyone, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll look at stacking and unstacking by passing multiple labels as lists. Okay, for this example, we'll create another data frame. So I just created this a few minutes ago to save some time. Don't worry about how I am creating a multi-level index data frame using the multi-index from tuples method. Don't worry about how I'm creating this. Okay, what we'll do next is create a data frame by passing this columns as the column name, and we'll save this data frame in a variable called dframe. So that will be pd.dataframe. Then we'll use NumPy's randn method to create our data frame. np.random.randn, and we'll create a 4x4 data frame, 4x4, and then we'll pass columns as the columns names that we created. Okay, now let's see our data frame. So we have the example, state, and location columns, and then indexes. We have 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is just a simple, this is a data frame. So we have California, 2 states, New York, location, far, close. Okay, what we'll do next is use the stack method on our data frame. So data frame dot stack. So let me show you a simple example first. So I'll simply call the stack method on the data frame, and in the original data frame you see that location is the innermost column name. Now in the stacked data frame we see that location is now the innermost index label, right? Close, far, close, far. Okay, let's look at our data frame one more time. Okay, now we have our original data frame. What we'll do next is pass more than one level. We've seen before that we can also pass so data frame that stack, and then we can also pass either 0 or 1, or if it has a name we can pass the name, right? For instance, we could have said location and then stack it by location, right? Or we could have said state, and our data frame will be stacked by state, or even example. We could have said example, or E is lowercase example, and then it will be stacked by example. And we can do the same for the unstack method. We can unstack it by using 0 or 1 or index names. We've seen that in the previous lecture. Now we'll stack the data frame by passing more than one level for the stack method. So we have our data frame dot stack, and then to pass, we'll pass more than one level as a list, and we'll be using the argument level, and then we'll set that to be equal to the list containing the levels we want to pass. Let's say we want to pass state and location. So in this case, what the stack method will do is first it will stack it by the state. So we'll have the states index first, and then it will stack it by location. Then we'll have location as the index. So let's run it. Here you see that the data frame is first stacked by state. We have California and New York, California and New York. And then it's stacked by location, whether far or close. So this is how we can pass more than one level in our stack method. And based on the order of the level that we pass, our data frame will be stacked following that order. And instead of this labels as state and location, we can also pass numbers. So in the original data frame, we see that location is the innermost column name. So we can use 2 for that. So location will be 2 and then state will be 1. So let's check that. We have our data frame that stack, and then we'll pass the levels argument, and then we'll set that to be equal to level, and we'll set that to be equal to a list containing 1 and 2. So this will do the same as the above. So it will unstack it first by state, it will stack it first by state, and then by location. Okay, the same is true for the method unstack. So let's save this in a variable called data frame unstack. So we save this in a variable called data frame stack. Now we will call the unstack method on the stacked data frame stack. Then we'll call the unstack method. Okay, first let's see the default unstack. So now we see that location is the innermost column label, right? So in the stacked data frame, we see that location was the innermost row label or index label, and as you remember, the unstack method will make the innermost index label the innermost column label in the unstacked data frame. So location was the innermost index label. Now when we unstack it, location is the innermost column label. So this is by default. We could have passed 0 or 1 or 2 in our method, or we could have specified labels. Let's look at that. So we could have also said data frame stack that unstack and then pass level. Then we'll set that to be equal to, let's pass a list of levels. For instance, we can unstack it by location and state. So it will unstack it first by location and then by state. See, it's unstacked first by location and then state. We could have also specified numbers and yield the same result. So data frame stack that unstack, and then for levels could have passed list of numbers. So in this case it will be 2 and 1, and that will yield the same result as the above. So it's unstacked first by location and then state. Great. So to summarize, we saw how to stack and unstack by passing multiple labels. We saw that we could pass the labels as names or even pass a list of numbers indicating those labels. We saw that we could do the same for both the stack and unstack methods. Great. Thank you everyone.